Alright, so a new week begins. Anyway. Alright, well, a response video to some guy complaining about the prostitution stuff again. Kind of an old subject. And, I don't know, he did a 4-minute video, which isn't too long, but he's just saying the same stuff over again and over again. Why shouldn't people be able to make agreements? And your example of airline pilots on drugs is a bad example. Blah, blah, blah. Well, whatever. I use that example just to point out that there's a consequence to doing something, changing the law. So let's say if we change the law on prostitution, what's the consequence? And you gotta, that's what you got to do. What's the, what new problems are you going to create by fixing the old problem? And understand partly, there's lots of context here, lots of nuance, and you can't just say, it's two people, let them contract. Because that is a lame excuse. A lottery is people contracting. But you're not going to, I don't think you're going to advocate that people be allowed to run raffles and lotteries. Because you know what's going to happen. People are going to be seduced into throwing money away. And people are going to make a living not doing any work. Just running rackets. And it's bullshit. And we don't need it socially. It's no good for the human race. And blah, 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 blah. And it's about seduction again. And sex is seductive, the most seductive thing on earth. More seductive than lotteries, more seductive than, it just is. So that's just its nature. They created the word seductive because of sex, because of what it does to people. So it's like water is to wet, sex is to seductive. All right. So you can't just say legalize it and leave it there. You have to articulate how you understand the social consequences, and you understand the representational but there's similar model. And so now you're going to have to legalize some other crap. If you're going to legalize prostitution, you're going to have to legalize the right of, say, a bunch of women who like to laugh at men to start bribing me out of my dignity. Maybe we could pay people to eat shit on TV, to literally eat shit. We know there's a price. Everybody has their price. So why don't we just start buying people into doing such things and taking risks? Like I say, if I take 5 women and 2 of them have herpes, and I randomly choose, you're going to randomly choose which one you're going to have sex with. How are you going to feel about that? I mean, is the sex, even if she doesn't have herpes, you're going to be worried. You're going to be thinking about it. It's going to be on your mind. It's going to harp at you. So come on. It just isn't that simple. And then you got, like I said, you got the further complication of all these other social arrangements. And if you start putting whorehouses in the middle of little towns like this, it's going to cause all kinds of problems, all kinds of domestic problems. Because it's one thing for, women. There's a lot of wives who wouldn't let their husbands go unattended to Las Vegas. Because they kind of know, that they need somebody, they need, a chaperone. Because they know they're going to get drunk, and the guys are going to get them over to the hookery, and they're going to get hookered. And that's what, these are just, you have to create obstacles to some things just so people aren't trapped by their own recklessness. And that's just what civilization does. And if we don't do that, life gets really ugly and sloppy really fast. And that's what you're not accounting for. But I guess for me, the key argument against these people who are considering it some sort of liberty interest of women to sell themselves is, again, you're not appreciating what they're selling. And if we could create some other artificial circumstance, you would maybe be able to see exactly what's going on and just how not nice it is in reality. And that, yes, there should be a mechanism for serving the legitimate need of, helping people who can't find that kind of satisfying interaction in some sort of more dignified contract to be able to procure the service. But you don't make it a service that any drunk can walk off the street and get. And you also don't make it a service that has a lottery aspect to it. Like I say, make prostitution pay $15 an hour. It's unskilled labor, let's admit the truth. let it pay what it's supposed to pay relative to other jobs, and yeah, then we'll see, you know, its real market value. But it's artificial the way it is now, and you know, maybe if you did legalize it, the numbers would finally come down to that, and you know, people would be a lot. I mean, that would discourage use, just because you wouldn't have the premiums, women running for that lottery ticket out. But right now, yeah, prostitution pays a lot better than washing dishes. Even in the shittiest of circumstances, it probably pays better than any other job. So it's going to be seductive. And if you give me the choice of making $12 an hour, I don't know, cleaning windows, or making $20 an hour, you know, doing something degrading, and something I don't really want to do, but, you know, I'll do it for $20 an hour. Yeah, it's a big difference, or $50 an hour. All of a sudden, what jobs I'm willing to do changes, depending on how much you're willing to pay me. So, yeah, you can't, there's no point in having the argument if you're just going to keep coming back to this simplistic idea that it's a question about whether it should be legal or illegal. It's how you make it legal. And if you're not going to address that, then you're not going to address the subject. And it's the same, and I use the drug thing as a parallel just because it's the same issue. It's not about whether it should be legal or not for people to do whatever they want in their own fucking living rooms. The question is, how are they going to be accountable for those people who don't do it in their own living rooms? It's like gun ownership. There's a huge gap in legal policy where we've given these people this right because of the stupid constitutional, this archaic piece of militia garbage in the Constitution, and they take no responsibility. So they don't pay the price for the wackos who kill their wife and family with their gun on one of their drunken binges. You know, it's just a social cost. And you got to be, if you're not going to be accountable for the social cost, then yeah, you're basically an asshole. And you got to realize that if there wasn't a Second Amendment, you know, there'd be a lot of communities saying no guns in this town. There'd be a lot of Wyatt Earping going on because life is better. We never got to worry about some wacko getting pissed off and blowing your brains out. So anyway, what else is there? Yeah, well, whatever. That's enough on the subject, I think. But there are lots of layers to this, and you're not appreciating the abusive layers, the extortive layers, the exploitation layers, and then you're not even addressing the simple, practical layer that what happens to institutions like marriage, monogamous relationships, how much damage will freely available hookers do to those relationships. You know, we put bracelets on men. You know, they go maybe have another bracelet on hookers, registered hookers. And so if you get within 5 feet of a registered hooker, you know, your bracelet gets damaged. You know, and so then it can be read that you saw a hooker. You violated our marriage contract. Therefore, I get the house and you hit the road. Fuck out hard. You know, but whatever. It's just not that simple. Yeah. And especially, like I said, in the context of, this is not just eating shit. This is not just some crazy thing that you pay people to do. It's about the most important human relationship that exists. The relationship between, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't want to slight the homosexuals, but yeah, I mean, the mating thing is a little, it's got 2 billion years of, well, a billion, of evolutionary heritage, and you can't just fuck with it. I'm not saying we're by nature monogamous or with this or with that. I'm just saying that we have for a long time been in, we've had a working way of living. And I don't, you know, I'm not married, I don't fall into that, but I'm just saying for most people it works, and this is going to make it unwork. So anyway, I mean, not this, but your sloppy proposal that just says legalize it, but I'll take no responsibility for how. You know, and the Nevada model is just a silly model because that's a show town. That's not the reality. People don't live in Nevada. You know, that's not America. The average human's environment. So it's a silly, not silly, but it's just not a useful example of the implications of accessible prostitution. Yeah, that's probably enough. Alright, well, enough on that subject. Hopefully that'll end it for a while again. So I don't find it much fun to argue against legalization, because I'm really not opposed to it. I mean, I want the right. I like freedom. But I'm not going to deny that the current circumstance just seduces too many people the wrong way. And it's not healthy. It's not useful. It's not civilized. We got to do better. So until somebody comes up with better, I'm going to keep saying, I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, okay. End of the video.